reason I started this was because I got to work with my dad. I mean, that was far and away the first reason. After sitting at the kitchen table saying we should go into business together, we should do this. I'm like, okay, and not having any idea what that might be, and having the opportunity that anytime I ever worked with you, because I had worked with you before, that I've always growing. I've always been challenged, and when I was a kid, whenever I'd bring something to you, it'd be like, so, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And at first, I would always think, well, is nothing ever good enough? And that was never the intention. It was always just thinking about things differently, the diversity of thought, the challenging how I'm thinking, not because it wasn't good enough, right? And so getting the opportunity to do that and to work with other organizations to be able to provide not the is this not ever good enough thought behind things, but really to get people who wanted to challenge the status quo to have the opportunity, like I did growing up, to challenge the status quo in the arena that they were in, to build their business or build their confidence or build their leadership skills or whatever that was, to serve them, to help them do that. The vision of the company was started for our grandchildren's grandchildren. And regardless of whether there were grandchildren, which there are, but it's really about the intention of creating something that was long-lasting and that could be here to support organizations through their generations. So that's not ever changed. The idea that we were going to work with an organization not only from the senior leadership and the strategic direction and the alignment perspective through the training or the developing of leaders, regardless of station in their organization, those two things have not changed. Those are still the core two directions that how we do those things, the tools that we use, they evolve. I think that creating something that will support next generations of businesses that are growing, that hasn't changed.
Well, I think that you hit on something there. The concept behind a business that is sustainable to the grandchildren's grandchildren is really an idea that the product that and the service that are created has to be sustainable through multiple future generations. So therefore, the only thing that can be available and fosterable through succeeding generations is the continuous ability to learn and to apply in a profitable, pragmatic way. And so when a person is looking at the future and creating a future, they are really looking at what is a sustainable commodity that will never go away. And so when you really look at that, one of the things that happened since the beginning of time is learning. And so creating the product, the service around the capacity and the ability to learn and affect change and adaptation is really the driving force. But it also is an inspiring force because it challenges those who are leading to be ahead, be aware of the things that we talk about.
When we first started, I remember us having the conversations about there weren't people that did what we did in a small boutique firm. It was the McKinseys and the Bains and all of those groups. And so trying to help people understand that there were people like us out there that knew how to do this and that could help them get to that next level was that was a bit of a challenge at first.
Yeah, well, it was really interesting because once you began to scratch the itch, if you will, of the person that was trying to grow, you found out that there were so many more things that they had questions about. They had knowledge, but what did they need to do the next thing in the evolvement of their business.
Right.
And as it became clear in terms of how they managed, then they began to be concerned about where they go next, because they have started something that's becoming a little bit bigger than they were aware of.
Right.
State that is that the answer was already in the person. What we had to do is organize the thought pattern in the person so they discovered something that was going to be valuable to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can go ahead and use it. When the answer was coming from outside, it wasn't in a language that they could internalize it. And so then they would be confused. And when anyone is confused, they tend to stop until the confusion stops.
Right. Or they deflect or say no because there's confusion.
And one of the other things that is so important in the early stage is that people who would visit with us about some things that were important were making sure that they didn't feel inadequate. And because inadequacy is the very thing that they were trying to overcome.
Right.
And so we had to be really careful to respect the dignity and the knowledge of the persons that we were working with in the process.
And I don't know that that's changed in 30 years, I think that those are the kinds of things that from the early years we put into practice. That was a belief, and that was something that we hold true is people have knowledge, people have experiences, and they're important, and that we need to make sure that we respect that in the process of going to the next place they want to go.
And utilize it. That I think is the other thing. We have all kinds of people who come to the aspect of business and growth who really want simply to be successful. And if they can discover the kernel that causes them to advance, the payoff is tremendous.
One of the fun things about what we get to do is literally watch the aha moments occur. I mean, it's almost like you can see light bulbs go on. I remember several clients that would tell us, yeah, I'm going to retire in 5 years, I'm going to retire in 5 years, I'm going to retire in 5 years. And we just got to the point where it was kind of fun and almost became a joke, but people weren't serious until they started saying like 3 years, because people got excited about what was going on in their business and they felt a little more confident, or they were discovering something. They were having fun again.
You're right. One of the things that we picked up really early was when people were using that retirement in 5 years, they perceived that they were out of information and didn't know how to go to the next step. As they began to discover that not only did they probably know the next step, they were a significant part of it, and the reason they got in business in the first place all of a sudden came back. So instead of being a terrible burden, the big gorilla on their back, it became something that they could pursue, perhaps even with people in their families or close associates, and the excitement was back.
So having the opportunity to work with someone, an owner or a leader who is, in one case, ready to retire because they feel like they're out of information, and looking to create that next generation of leaders and make sure that they're ready to go to the next. I can't give you the number of times we've worked with that, and those are success stories. The success stories of working with an individual who maybe had not graduated from high school and go through the processes of becoming much more confident in their leadership skills, whether it be them leading the company or them leading a division or department, and the emotion that occurs because they feel the success that the confidence has given them. Um, those are special moments. They're pretty emotional, not only for them, but helping someone discover that, it's pretty emotional on the facilitator side as well.
That is very, very significant. The other thing is that over the past 30 years, there's very few organizations that we have worked with that have gone out of business.
Sure.
And so the fact that you can be a contributor to the sustaining of the business, which was one of the initial reasons for working together, I think lends itself to the idea that we're in something for the long haul, not just for the moment.
Mm-hmm. It has been interesting to watch generations of people, whether it be the original entrepreneur and their children or their children's children, start taking on different roles within the organization. Because we work primarily with family-owned businesses. There are other businesses that we work with, other industries, but the family-owned or private business is a space where we hang our hat, and those different generations. So watching the pride that parents and grandparents have in watching their next generations become confident and mature in their roles is pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that's the privately held or closely held business that was looking as an exit strategy of having to sell to make it work now no longer has that as a primary consideration. One of the other things that has been extremely important is that we became a product of the product. In other words, we had companies that we had been running ourselves on a continuous basis, starting them, developing them, so that we were not necessarily talking of something out of the box. It was something that we had experienced and had learned and had made many kinds of mistakes as others. But that involved the process of evolution as to things that were important when people are doing them, and people make things that perhaps should be forgotten when you're developing. So,
yeah, learning from experience is an incredible teacher.